Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 191, Focus, Motivation, Team. I wasn't exactly sure how to title this episode, so I just took the keyword from each question, and I think it's going to be a very good show. I like the questions a lot. We ran out of audio questions, so I need you guys to go to anchor.fm/WeldonGreen and submit your audio questions for this week's show and this week's series of shows. And today, we're going to try to have our first Training Tuesday. I know it's a Saturday. Bear with me. They're just called Training Tuesdays. They don't actually happen on Tuesday, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. And if you want to sign up for Training Tuesdays, which can happen any day at 7:30 p.m. LA time, go to the Discord and fill out the survey that is pinned in the general channel. And that will be the information. That'll be the list that I pull names from every single week when I send out the requests and the signups. And we're going to try to do about 3 or 4 a week at 7:30 p.m. Monday through Monday, LA time. And that'll just be like a 1-hour call on the stream where we will do training. Okay. I don't think there's any other announcements, so let's jump into the show. Okay, today we have 4 questions from Twitter, and the first one is from Relly. All right. I don't think this is a real word, so I can't really pronounce it. Or it could be a Polish name, because it has a Z and a W in it, which is pretty cool. But let's go ahead and take a look. Not that question, sorry. On your YouTube channel, I was looking for a video about Team Cohesion. I'm team captain of a team, and we are brand new. It's going great for us so far, and I want to pick that excitement up to build a rock-solid team. How do I do that? Okay. First of all, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. And yes, you should definitely keep hunting through the channel for videos on Team Cohesion, because I've talked a lot about different activities you can do and different things you can do. One of the main ones being like player dates, things like that. But let me just try to address a new idea so that when you find those older ideas, you can add them to what we talk about on today's show. Team Cohesion, if you are the team captain, is very different than if you are the team coach, because you're a peer of the team. And you're not like you are a leader, obviously, but you have to lead the team as a peer and not as an authoritarian figure. So there are things that you cannot do as a team captain if you want to have a great team environment. And those things involve like reaming out your players and stuff like that. Your job as a team captain most of the time is to hold them accountable, help them discuss their issues with you, and to like them so that they feel belonging and they can freely pursue their skill building. Because the biggest problem with skill building is that you have to fail and mess up in order to improve skills. And if it's a toxic environment where people can't like mess up in practice and fail forward, then you're not going to progress very far. You're just going to kind of stay at the same level. So I would say as a team captain, one of the best things you can do for Team Cohesion is whenever you guys lose, that is when you need to do your work. When you're winning, it's generally fine. Teams that win together like kind of move towards each other. Maybe not as serious in their topics of conversation. Maybe there's a lot of memes and stuff like that. But it's when teams lose that they kind of fall apart. And those are the moments when, as a team captain, you need to say, like, you need to tell a story about the game, about what was learned, about what people were attempting to learn, and what people were good at and not good at, and what they're going to be better at next time because they had this failure and this practice. And so basically what I would do is at the end of like big failure games, I would corral the team around and say like, okay, for each person, what is the big moment of this game that's like the number one moment where everything started to go bad, or like for you personally, and have everybody share, and then look at those moments, look at those 5 moments, and then talk afterwards about what you learned from those 5 moments, and how you're going to make sure that you move forward and learn from them and not repeat them again. That's kind of like the activity that I would do, is focus a lot on the losing moments, because that is when you really build actual team cohesion. All the rest of the stuff is more fluffy and less important. It's what you do when you lose that kind of defines team building. Okay, let's jump into question number 2. Chad Markle says, hey, Weldon, a lot of games I find myself focusing on the names on the other team and it causes me to perform worse. How can I overcome this? Okay, that's pretty easy. Just turn off nameplates. All right, next question. Question number 3. I peaked Diamond 1 last season, lost motivation after, and let it decay to inactivity. In that journey, I gained a lot of game knowledge and mechanical improvement. My brother, that is for the first time in his life, Platinum 5, gets tilted all the time and accuses me of losing him the game when we duo, even though I can decode this decision-making easily at his ELO and spot the mistakes. As someone who's interested in breaking down VODs and wouldn't exclude coaching in the future, how do I explain the situation? Okay. First of all, I don't know anything about the relationship with your brother, but it could be that you coaching your brother is not the best kind of way to have a brotherly relationship. So it could be that you will never coach him, regardless of how much you know and how good you are at the game, because there's other things going on in your relationship. And so I would focus on your brother and not on the game at all, actually, if I were to coach him. I would say this is a really good opportunity to learn coaching skills that are not at all related to League of Legends. So, for example, after the game, you talk to him about his emotions and what he's upset with and what he succeeded at in that game and what he failed at and what he was trying to do and what he's prideful about and what he's excited about. Not prideful in a bad way, but like what he's proud of and what he's ashamed of, and share. And one of the best ways to open up those doors, since you're playing as a peer here, not a coach, even though you want to be a coach, one of the best ways to open up those doors is very similar to the first question. You share yours first. You have to be the older person in the room. Talk about your shame and your pride and what you learned in order to open up the floodgates of his kind of sharing. And if you can work on the social and emotional skills of coaching with your brother, that would be like a very fantastic practice, because coaching has very little to do with game knowledge in any sport and everything to do with coaching people. Okay, when you coach a game, you coach people at that game. And if you can't coach people, you can't be a coach. End of story. So I would focus on the people skills with your brother, because it gives you an opportunity to practice something that will benefit you and that will benefit him and will benefit your relationship, and be something that you couldn't necessarily practice anywhere else with somebody who has that close a bond, the bond of blood. That's what I'd recommend. Okay, last question of the show. Before I get into that, I want to recommend the MAC program. This is the training program that I have created for replacing me, essentially. If you're not a pro team and can't afford to have me come train your team, then this is a set of online videos about mindfulness, acceptance, and commitment over 7 weeks, 7 modules per week, except 1 week, there's 5. And you can find it at the URL mindgames.gg/MAC, and you can use the code AskWeldon to get your discount and to show that you're coming from the YouTube video here, or Twitch. Which, by the way, you should check this out on Twitch, twitch.tv/mygamesweldon. Little call out there. But anyway, the MAC program it encapsulates the methodology that I use to approach and tackle mental resilience. And by that I mean, what is the real answer for all the 4 questions that we had today? The real answer is you should do the right thing. So you got to figure out the right behavior, and then you got to figure out how to do it. And the how you do it part is the hard part, because oftentimes we're controlled by our emotions. For example, you see yourself focusing on the names on the other team, and it causes you to perform worse. So you have to turn off the nameplates because you can't handle those emotions. You're trying to build team cohesion, but you're really mad when you lose a game, and so you flip out at the team instead of leading them. So you can't handle your emotions. Your brother is mad at you for losing the game, and you just get defensive and talk about right and wrong things instead of connecting with him as a human and figuring out why his emotions are so messed up and help him through that kind of movement, because you're defending yourself from basically from subverting yourself to his, like what if your brother needed to hear that you messed up? What if you just said to your brother, yeah, you're right, I messed up there. It was my fault that you lost. And then he opened up to you and to more receptive feedback, right? So admitting that you're wrong, even when you're not wrong, might be a tool that you could use to connect with your brother, but you can't do that unless you have full control over your own emotions, because we want to, protect our own identity and our own face by keeping ourselves proud of our accomplishments. So admitting those things when we didn't do them is very difficult. Yeah, so I think that this really is the answer to everything, honestly. It's the answer to everything related to performance and also related to pushing yourself further and developing yourself through the playing of video games as an esport. If you want to go pro and you're striving to go pro and you're worried that you might not make it to pro and you're thinking like, oh, am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my time? The answer is no if you're training correctly. The answer is no if you're training in a way that builds transferable skills that you can use in the rest of your life. And this framework is the way that you can extrapolate all of your skills that you build climbing the ladder and leading teams into other areas of your life, so that when it's over, when this section of your life is over, when this esport is over and you go to the next esport or you go to the next phase of your life, you have all of the abilities that you learned during that training and during those efforts. Okay, so that's the MAC program. Make sure to check it out. Let's go to the final question. From Bad Comedy, I get very tilted from disorganization in solo queue. I tried to address it by shot calling more, but this almost made it worse, since people will blatantly not listen to me. How can I be more willing to work through disorganized situations without getting upset and throwing? The MAC program. But also, let me jump into the answer mode here. Okay. First of all, you have to lose the game already in your head. You have to accept the loss in your mind, okay? So that you're not having expectations on your teammates about them following your commands, okay? So first of all, put yourself in a mental position where you've already expected them to be disorganized and you've already expected them to be, where there's a quote about this by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, expect the worst of people. Begin each day by telling yourself, when you wake up in the morning, begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil. So what he's saying here is, wake up preparing yourself to experience all of these things, because other humans do not know the difference between good and evil. They're ignorant of it. Okay. But for my part, and this is him talking about himself, I have long perceived the nature of good and its nobility, the nature of evil and its meanness, and also the nature of the culprit himself, who is my brother. And he's talking about the people who do random nasty stuff to him all day long. Not in the physical sense, but as a fellow creature similarly endowed with reason and a share of the divine, meaning that, like, okay, these people who are messing up are just like me, exactly in every single way. Therefore, none of these things can injure me, he says, for nobody can implicate me in what is degrading, neither can I be angry with my brother or fall foul of him, for he and I were born to work together, like a man's two hands, feet, or eyelids, or the upper and lower rows of teeth. To obstruct each other is against nature's law, and what is irritation or aversion but a form of obstruction? So when you get irritated, or you avert your gaze from what your brothers are doing, he basically says, you are obstructing their growth. So you have recognized that what they're doing is of a nature evil, because you're able to discern that, great. But if you commit yourself to the same course of action, then you are also joining them in their like nest of uncontrollability. So what Marcus Aurelius would call you to do, and this is a big call to action. So this is something you're probably going to work on your entire life. And maybe unless you're a general who's fought in wars and seen men die, you're not going to be able to pull it off. But basically what he's saying is expect that this is going to happen, and then try to work with your teammates by giving them what they need. Figure out how to satiate and solve their desires, and worry secondarily about the solutions in the game, about the disorganization, okay? Maybe, because you're only going to be their general for one game, maybe you fix their day but lose the game. Like maybe your kind acts or your acts of listening or your acts of attrition and conversation help them fix their day and help them like reseat themselves, but it has no impact on your game. And then in the next game, they're able to deploy that kind of self-control and act in a very uplifting manner. Well, I would argue that you have done the right thing. And I think you would agree with that exact same statement. So you have to already expect, I don't want to say expect the worst of people, but you have to expect that they're not going to be able to master themselves, because that's a large calling for everybody. You have to expect that they're not going to be able to master themselves, and you have to try to assist them in the growth of mastering themselves by talking to them, connecting with them, finding out what it is that they need to hear in order to like move on from the point and see backwards with reflection and learning. And those things happen through conversation, through playing together, through sacrifice, maybe where you sacrifice for somebody without even saying anything or asking for any sort of like recompense. Things like that. So become a brother to them and see what happens. I think that what you will find is that you'll lose more games, or you'll lose the same amount of games, but you will make the world a better place, and you'll make your world a better place as well, most importantly, because you'll be doing things for the right reasons, and you'll win and lose probably just about the same amount of games, although you might pull back a few more because you're trying to hit at their emotions instead of their actions. Okay, that's the show for you today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Tomorrow, I might be back with no sunglasses. Let's see. And make sure to go and sign up for that Training Tuesdays in the Discord if you want to get a free training session streamed live with me. No other announcements. Talk to you tomorrow.